When I was like 10 years old, my dad was on the other side of the tracks driving, and he was going from house to house looking for something to score. And after a few houses, he finally got what he went after. And my mother was in the front seat, and I was in the back seat. And I'll never forget this day. I was like 10 years old. He reached back with his hand open, his palm open, and had that one little baggie right there with the stuff. And that was the first time I'd ever seen it. I was 10 years old. And I remember thinking at the time how extraordinary that moment was. I felt like I was being accepted for the first time. I felt like I was in on a family secret that everybody widely knew, but I didn't. And now I was grown, and he cared about me. See, he was never one to play some catch in the backyard or anything like that. Didn't even have a backyard, but that's besides the point. That was his way of showing some form of connection with me. And when I look back, damn near 30 years later, it's heartbreaking to me to know that the very few times I ever saw him smile was whenever he had a baggie of stuff that was going to get him high. And that is heartbreaking, because I want to hold that young me and love him and tell him how much I actually care about him. Anyway, so I was writing this story about this moment, and this lends itself, I believe, for a first-person narrative, but a double first-person narrative, maybe, the way I see it now. And I just started the piece, and I was like, well, let me explore what my dad was thinking that day, at that moment. It was such a crucial, critical, and pivotal moment in my life, and I kind of want to get into his head a little bit, like what he was thinking at the time. And he's a pragmatist at the end of the day. I mean, he's able to logically convince himself of absolutely anything. He probably felt like he was being a good dad in that moment, which is insanity to normal people, but that's how he was. And so I want to explore that a bit. So I started with a first person point of view of his searching for this stuff across the tracks and not being able to find it for several houses. And I remember those days like it was freaking yesterday, going to that part of town, which I absolutely loathed with every single little tiny cell in my body. I hated every single moment of that. It felt icky. It felt gross and destitute. And we would go there multiple times a day to get my man his fix. And that involved a lot of crap. Like I always had my stereos pawned, or I always had my stuff stolen or whatever in the pursuit of this shit. So I want to have a kind of first person narrative on both sides, exploring where he was at in his headspace, and then also the little boy in the back seat, the little me in the back seat, who was desperately wanting, love and connection, and getting it in a palm full of white powder. Wasn't delivered to me, of course. He just showed it to me, and I just looked at it. I didn't know exactly what I was looking at. So I started this story, and I kind of got teared up a little bit, because how could you do that? Like, how could that be your form of connection with your son? And it's heartbreaking, but there's also a massive undercurrent of tragic and haunting love there as well. That on the surface, we've got everything that is ugly and detestable, and below that, you've got the universal truth, the longing for connection and love. And that's what I want to explore. I don't know why I keep reaching up back here. Maybe I get bit by a spider last night or something. And that's what we're going to explore in this story. And I doubt I'm going to finish it in one day. It's going to take several takes at this, because it's very emotionally dense. So we're going to explore this a little bit. And I've got my first paragraph. Let's read it right now. Actually, Hambone, by the way, is a dealer. Real name, as far as I ever knew. So that's where we're going to start. Day of, in the car, driving house to house. Hambone didn't have any grams on hand today, and I got to piss like a fucking racehorse. Ever since Shorty got pinched last month, shit hasn't been the same over here. Prices up, supply low. So many of these low-life fuckers lace their shit so much I can't tell who to trust anymore. I pawned my boy's stereo earlier today, and he's going to be pissed when we get home. I'll just tell him I'll get him a bigger one. That'll shut him up. And his mother, that's a whole other story. That's how we're starting it. Right in the middle of his conflict, looking for the stuff. And see how he's so pragmatic. He's able to justify and to explain all to himself, alienating everybody in the car with him. Because mind you, I was with my sisters and my mother at the time. So it's a tough story to articulate, but we're going to do our best. This is a particularly interesting tale so far. So I'm going through, like I said, a first-person narrative of him driving around trying to find a dealer, and he's having some flashbacks of when he was a kid because he grew up in this little neighborhood here, and laments the fact that he both feels at home here but also detests it with all of his heart. And I think that's an interesting contrast here, because this is a man who feels better than these people who he is ultimately dependent upon. Yet he isn't. He is not better than. In many ways, he's worse than, because he keeps these things in the back of mind and is convincing himself of a story, of a narrative that is not true at all. And that you could always see it. You could see it in his eyes. You could see it in the disdain. And so now we're at the point of the story where he's having these flashbacks. Now, mind you, this is a very reoccurring event. I mean, this was multiple times a day even. But this time is different because he's got to go to a guy who is his absolute last resort. And this is 4 or 5 houses in, all over this little part of town. You know, there's undercovers all around. There's laced crap all around. So, and he just beaten this guy up last week for screwing with a girl that he was trying to screw with. So there's a lot of latent tension here, and he is trying to convince himself. That's what it is. He's a storyteller, ultimately, to his own demise, because he tells himself that everything is okay as long as he can logically recreate or create a narrative or a story that makes him somehow the freaking hero. And that is what we're exploring here. So we're going to continue to keep writing this. And right now he's just about to get to the guy's house who has the stuff that he needs. I'm at this place now in the story where he's about to get to the house, and we've gone and explored the scene all around and what this means to him. You're starting to see who this guy is as a man, what he believes, what his morals are, even lack thereof, and sees himself in this mangy dog that's just outside, like doesn't know the difference between inside and outside, just kind of it is what it is. And he sees his entire philosophy in that dog, and I found that fascinating to see what he does, what this man does once he gets this, once he scores. Now I know the exact moment, the thing that is the heartbreaking part, where he offers his connection in that form, but how he differentiates himself, how he logics himself throughout this entire scenario. And of course we're adding in the characters as well, like my mother and me, my sister, that are all in the car at this time. And even tossing in a funny anecdote where he actually tails a cop, and the cop's like, dude, what are you doing? And he's like, I'm trying to score and you're ruining it. Get out of here. And it makes my mother laugh. And that's kind of a driving factor with their relationship, who they are as two humans. He knows, and he can be methodical about why that relationship works, and she can do some explaining. She can internalize why this works is because of his humor. What draws them together is kind of bound by his ability to make light of literally any situation, where this guy can just be so not giving a shit about life, and that levity is what binds the two. And there's a comfort even in that. It's just so absurd. Looking back on it now and trying to explain this man as a character, it's so absurd how somebody so aloof, so nonchalant with such high gravity scenarios and high gravity implications, drugs and jail and all this stuff, can just be like, well, we're here. This is what I'm doing. And I wonder if this is like a balancing act, a tug of war between not caring and not having a choice. And I think we're going to explore that as well. But in the meantime, I got to eat. And I didn't cook at all. My chicken is still frozen. So I'm going to go to frickin' Subway or something. I know. Not the best choice, but that's what I got out here in the middle of frickin' nowhere. So we're going to probably pick this up maybe tomorrow. Maybe let's see if I can explore something a little bit later tonight and see if anything lands, because he hasn't scored yet. And this is one of those times, like I said, this is one of the few times where he's actually happy. So we're going to get to that in a bit. So, food first. Left Subway, as you can tell. And I had a foot long. And I didn't want to spring for a bag of chips. And I got back in my car and I was left a little unsatisfied. I was like, oh man, there's still something here that's not hidden. And you know what? I found a freaking protein bar hanging out in my passenger seat. So that is a huge win. A, I get to save some moolah. And B, instead of chips, I get protein. Win. Day 2. And you know we mean business because I got the robe on. This is the writing robe. Well, that's what we're going to call it from now on, I suppose. Just made that up. Anyways, I let the peace breathe last night. I went to go eat. As you know, I came back home and I didn't mess with it. I let it do its thing. I let it live. I read some and I took a break. And then this morning got up, journaled, and read some more. But it is 11 in the morning. That 1 hour change is driving me crazy. I woke up at 9 in the morning. So we're going to go ahead and blame that on the time change. Pushed up an hour. And I got back to reading this. Also nursing a freaking sty in the eye, which is so much fun. Anyways, I got back to reading the piece, and I think it's tight. I like it. I read it again just now, and I don't think there's any revisions. I did not feel any revisions are needed. It's tight. We started building the world. We started building the Father's philosophy. All in one sentence. Check this out. Tony lives one street over and has a mangy mutt with one eye. I'm not sure how old that dog is, but I always felt for the poor bastard. Not in a PETA sort of way. He's a filthy dog at the end of the day. I'm not sure he's ever seen the inside of Tony's house, and I can't imagine he'd think it any different than outside anyways. And I understand him. Damned if you do, damned if you don't. There's no inside, there's no outside. There's just pain, rain, and then you die. If you have a roof, even a broken one, and at least one eye, consider yourself lucky. I love that paragraph. I took some liberties with that. That paragraph is made up. Not part of the entire scene. I just wanted to create that because I wanted to create my man's philosophy here. His philosophy is, life's a bitch. I'm almost quite literally here. Life's a bitch, and you're lucky to get out alive with one eye and a broken roof. And that's the way he sees his world. That's the way he sees everything. Everything revolves around the fact that, hey man, life is cruel. You do what you got to do. You survive. And that's that. He doesn't see the beauty in things. He only sees the pain. And that is that's a perfect philosophy to have for a man who feels like he's above the area that he's trying to score in. But he is so not. He is that area. In this has been first person POV this entire time from the father figure. And he's about to score, get into the car, be happy. And he's going to do the exchange. He's going to extend the palm and he's going to show the stuff to the boy. And I'm going to switch from first person in my father's or the father figure and then switch to kind of a third person, I think. Just to highlight and illustrate the fact that I feel so detached from the boy in the back seat. And we're coming from an older narrator, me now. And that's what we're going to. I don't know how that's going to pan out. I don't know how the shift is going to happen. I'm going to let the story kind of dictate that. I've got to run to the gym here in about an hour anyway, so we'll have some time to kind of detach a little bit and let it ruminate. And I'm going to figure out how to make that shift between the father figure's eyes and the boys. So we're going to get to that. He's just scored. The father figure's just scored. And he's still crude about it up until the transition between the gift. And I'll read this bit right here because it's going to be such a huge contrast with the innocence and the short attentional and emotional span of the boy. Tony and I skip the pleasantries and get straight to business. He's one greasy bastard, but I appreciate how he never wants to talk. I like that in people. Get to the fucking point, you know? His eye is still swollen as he attempts to glare. I don't know if it's the thought of the impending high or the fact that he looks like that because of some skank, but I can't help but laugh. I know I said this often, but this is quite literally the best $10 anyone could possibly spend. That's where the father figure ends. We're going to now jump into, and I just came up with this a few minutes ago, and I'm trying to see if it works, and I think it does. Instead of third person, instead of taking a step back, we're going to get straight into the absolute innocence of the boy. And the boy, it's going to be first person. When my dad got back in the car, I was excited. He said we'd get McDonald's, and my sister was squirming so much in her seat, and Mom kept cussing whilst Dad was outside of the car. The simplicity of it, I think, makes it so much more devastating. And it's in past tense, so the boy is, I don't know, we're coming up with this as we speak here. So I don't know if this is the narrator looking back through the eyes of the innocent child, or if this is a first-person account of the child, and we're going to speak very plainly and just get into the next beat, just like a kid would do. The only thing the kid is worried about is the Happy Meal. That's his crowning achievement for the day. I just want that Happy Meal. And Dad said we were going to get that Happy Meal. And I think we're going to break that little boy's heart because we're not going to get that Happy Meal because my dad has to piss so bad that he has to go home first, pee, and do his stuff. And Mom is going to take us to McDonald's. So that alone is such a devastating twist. Oh man, it's heavy. I'm telling you, but I'm exploring how to tell this story from this first person POV. Now we're gonna see where this takes us, but it's already so hauntingly devastating and heartbreaking. How this boy wants nothing but connection, and the father wants nothing but the high. I just left the gym and I didn't think about the piece at all. I just got some frustration out and some sweating out and felt damn good. Now on my way home, and it's about 2 or so p.m. Yesterday and today is all about the story. I just wrote 2 paragraphs of the boy's POV, and it's in first person, it's in present tense. Dude, I'm telling you, I'm getting teary-eyed with this because it's so pure. Here we are in this kid who doesn't understand why he's over there, just wants to leave because it's dirty. All the dogs are mangy and ugly, and the dad, he just going to say hi to some friends, and Mom just keeps cussing while he's outside, and he doesn't understand this. And then the moment comes and they're leaving, and just about before they do the railroad jump, because there was a railroad tracks that had a hill on it, do a little jump. Just before that, Dad reaches back and shows it to the kid, and he's like, he smiles and looks back. See, we were about to be at the railroad tracks. This is the best part of the trip. Dad always drives fast over the hill, and I get butterflies in my stomach, and my sister cheers. Before we do the railroad jump, Dad turns around and looks at me with a smile. He never looks back here. And then he opens his hand, and I see a small bag. There was white powder in the bag, but it was so small, I'm not sure what it is. But he seems happy, and it feels like he's telling me a secret, something my mom and my sister shouldn't know about. I smile back, and then just as I look outside, whoosh! The railroad jump gave me butterflies, and me and my sister laugh. Such a pivotal moment between father and son with this atrocious substance that has absolutely crippled every relationship in that car. And the only thing the boy is focused on is the railroad jump, and he laughs. What? I don't know. I know where I'm taking it after this. But to see this through the innocence of the boy is so it's so heartbreaking, man. And I'm using Claude as an editor, and we're going through seeing I'm pasting some of my blurbs, and it's saying, okay, well, this is working, and let this linger for a moment, let that line linger, let that line do the talking. And the explanations that I'm getting back about that, about philosophies and letting the line stick a bit, oh man, it weighs. There's some heaviness to it, but it's so light at the same time. And wow, I'm gonna keep working on this, but now I'm getting hungry again. I just need a freaking vending machine right here so I can just keep pounding away at the writing. But so heartbreaking, so beautiful though. The innocence of a kid and the generational cycle in that moment. Insane. I love this. I just finished the first draft, and I thought at some point I was going to have some sort of narrator in there, like myself 30 years in the future. I'm going to scrap that altogether. I love the idea of ending this so matter-of-factly from the boy's POV. And it's gotten me a little teared up. It's doing the emotional heavy lifting without telling the reader what to feel. They're going to put these two characters together and see the weight of the just the devastating effects of generational cycles. And I'm very proud of it. I haven't read it out loud all together yet, and I'm about to do that now. So I think we're about 15 or 1600 words. And I think that's a good length for Substack. So I'm going to read it again once more and let it breathe for tonight, and I'll come back to it tomorrow. So all in all, about 3 days of writing this. But it's beautiful. It's haunting and beautiful, and I'm excited to put this out there. All right, day 3. And I'm going to read it out loud, the final draft, one of the final drafts before I really get to specific editing. I'm going to read it out loud and see if it works auditorily. I don't know if the style is getting any better. And the cat keeps playing with stuff over here. Kitty. Kitty. Hi, Kitty. Matches my microphone. Okay. Day 3, the morning of day 3. And we are going to read it out loud for the first time. And I want to see what works auditorily and where I can make a couple little tweaks. All right, so this is my first read through with the final draft as the cat plays. Hambone didn't have any grams on hand today, and I gotta piss like a fucking racehorse. Ever since Shorty got locked up last month, shit hasn't been the same over here. Prices up, supply low. So many of these low-life fuckers cut their shit so much I can't tell who to trust anymore. I pawned my boy's stereo earlier today, and he's going to cry when we get home. I'll just tell him I'll get him a bigger one. That'll shut him up. And his mother, that's a whole other story. Three houses in, and... All right, see? 3 houses in, and I'm still empty-handed. I'm going to add that right there. 3 houses in, and I'm still empty-handed. When we got home, I squished a roach by the table and sat with my sister at the table, and we started eating. Mom went straight to her room, and her and Dad started yelling. I heard the hallway bathroom fan running. I went and turned it off and sat back down to eat. So I took a line out towards the end. Mom went straight to her room, and her and Dad started yelling. And then there was a line after that. I said, we probably won't see them again today. And I took it out before this reading here. And now I'm wondering if I should put that back in, because it does seem like the ending is a bit rushed now. Mom went straight to her room, and her and Dad started yelling. I heard the bathroom hallway. Good Lord. Mom went straight to her room, and her and Dad started yelling. I heard the hallway bathroom fan running. I went and turned it off and sat back down to eat. So I think there's a beat that wants to breathe there. Mom went straight to her room, and her and Dad started yelling. There needs to be a comment about that. A matter-of-fact, just commentary on that. Like, this is normal. This is what happens. And then by routine, I go and turn the hallway bathroom fan off. Mom went straight to her room, and her and Dad started yelling. We probably won't see them, either of them, the rest of today. Okay. After reading it aloud, I feel a little bit more confident in this. So I'm going to do a little bit more editing. I'm going to show this to Claude and see if there's any places that need tightening up. I think reading it out loud helped a lot with the cadence of it, and also adding the beats whenever the beats were necessary. Just like at the end there, because the end did feel rushed. And also my reading could use a touch up, because it wasn't perfect this morning. So let's get this finalized and edited, and also get some of this cat hair out of here. All right, so the short story is published, and I'm insanely proud of this. This is one of my favorite pieces of writing I've ever created, and I can say that wholeheartedly. I mean, this reads like somebody who's been through the muck and who's come out the other side and able to articulate something so devastating, yet filled with compassion and humanity and humility. That said, I'm going to read this piece out loud, but I'm going to warn you now, there's a lot of choice words, and this isn't for any shock factor. This is true to character. All right. So if you are a little squeamish with hearing these words, I've warned you. Otherwise, I will read it in full. If you'd rather read the piece, you could find this piece as well as everything else I've written so far on my Substack in the link below. Here we go. Hambone didn't have any grams on hand today, and I got to piss like a fucking racehorse. Ever since Shorty got locked up last month, shit hasn't been the same over here. Prices up, supply low. So many of these low-life fuckers cut their shit so much I can't tell who to trust anymore. I pawned my boy's stereo earlier today, and he's going to cry when we get home. I'll just tell him I'll get a bigger one. That'll shut him up. And his mother, that's a whole other story. 3 houses in, and I'm still empty-handed. I can hear the train in the distance. That could be an issue if I need to escape, but I don't need to worry at all about that right now. I don't even want to think about the hell that awaits should I not get what I came here for. The next spot is at least 20 miles away. The woman's silence is a terrible sign. The kids are hungry, and to them, that McDonald's sign gets brighter by the minute. I can't stand negativity, so I'm going to assume Tony. Yes, the same Tony I knocked out last week for fucking that one chick I've been working on is holding. He's always the last resort, and for good reason. Call me crazy, but passing my boyhood street always fucks me up. I miss that burger joint that turned out to be a front. The lady who sold the burgers was a mean old bitch, but god damn did she run a good operation. Pretty good burgers, too. She died some years back in prison, and this block has had a power vacuum ever since.
And scumbags like Tony were more than happy to take the crumbs. Even I had a taste of the action for a while. I was making good money and the kids were fed, but I couldn't control myself. I was snorting and smoking more than selling, and I got in a bad way with a couple assholes I grew up with. They still live over on Letter Street. I almost died by that street lamp at the corner. Fuck them. And fuck that street. Tony lives one street over and has a mangy mutt with one eye. I'm not sure how old that dog is, but I always felt for the poor bastard. Not in a PETA sort of way. He's a filthy dog at the end of the day. I'm not sure he's ever seen the inside of Tony's house, and I can't imagine he'd think it any different than the outside anyways. I just understand him. Damned if you do, damned if you don't. There's no inside, there's no outside. There's just pain, rain, and then you die. If you have a roof, even a broken one, and at least one eye, consider yourself lucky. Pulling up to Tony's is always a risky affair. For starters, I still haven't fully settled with the assholes, and this is one of the hottest streets in this part of town. Mostly H, but I don't mess with that shit anymore. It's too expensive, and I don't trust myself with it. We've got a bit of a rocky past. And I've been called a lot of things, but I damn sure ain't a junkie. Add to that, there's always some cop lurking around here looking to prove himself. One time, I swear to God, this one cop was following me for a few minutes and I took a small detour and then I followed him for a while. Tailed him like a cop. He pulled me over and asked what I was doing and I told him, I'm trying to score some dope, but you're fucking that up for me. The old lady actually got a laugh out of that. 10 years ago, she would have chewed my ass out. She doesn't drink, smoke, nothing. I've always admired how quickly she got used to all my shit. You'd think she grew up around it all the same. When all else fails, all I have to do is make her laugh. And as if the slum gods themselves heard my pleas, Tony has exactly what I need. I'm not sure how or why he, of all the bastards down this block, has this shit today. He snorts, shoots, and smokes more than I do, and buddy, that's pretty damn impressive if you ask me. Either way, beggars can't be choosers. This is a huge win. I can't hold this piss much longer, and I want to get the fuck out of here before my brother sees me. I owe his ass too. His mom always said he was the good one, and as many times as I stood up for him and beat the shit out of anyone who fucked with him, he should owe me. Tony and I skip the pleasantries and get straight to business. He is one greasy bastard, but I appreciate how he never wants to talk. I like that in a man. Get to the fucking point, you know? His eye is still swollen as he glares and fakes a smile as we shake hands. I don't know if it's the relief of the impending high or the fact that he looks like that because of some skank, but I can't help but laugh for real. I glance around the block just to be safe as I put my hands in my pocket, and I jog back to the car. This shit here is the best $10 a man could spend as far as I'm concerned. Dad just got back in the car and he seems happy. And I'm happy because he said we can get McDonald's. My sister is squirming in her car seat and whining. She's hungry too. Mom was cussing quietly at the windshield while Dad was meeting his friend. She always seems so angry. But Dad always tells me he just wants to say hi to his friends, and he has a lot of them. We are driving fast on this bumpy road, but I'm glad we are leaving. I hate it over here. Every time we come over here, I want to leave fast. The houses are ugly and uneven, and the people walking around scare me because they look like they are going to break into the car. The dogs walking around are so dirty and always pregnant. Sometimes I give them fries if I have any. There's a lot of cops, and anytime they talk to my dad, I'm always afraid they will take him again. Sometimes at night when we are over here, I lay down so they can't see my head, and I stare at the ceiling of the car to see if there are any red and blue lights blinking. That's how I know. We are about to be at the railroad tracks. This is the best part of being over here. Dad always drives fast over the hill, and I get butterflies in my stomach, and my sister cheers. Before we do the railroad jump, my dad turns around and reaches back towards me and looks at me with a smile. He never looks back here. And then he opens his hand and I see a small bag. There's white powder in the bag, but it's so small I'm not sure what it is. But he seems happy and it feels like he's telling me a secret. Something my mom and my sister shouldn't know about. I smile back and feel like a grown-up, and then, just as I look outside, whoosh! The railroad jump gave me butterflies and me and my sister laugh. Dad must have to pee because we aren't stopping at McDonald's. I know better than to say anything, but my sister starts to cry and Mom calms her down and tells both of us that we have to go home first and then we will go get McDonald's. She sounds mad and she says that really loud. I hate it when Dad is like this. He's so impatient when he has to pee. Mom says he's impatient all the time. He drives so fast, and usually that's when I worry about the cops. We aren't that far from home, and Dad tells me to unbuckle my sister's seat. He says that when he's in a big hurry, and I never know why, because we aren't even on our street yet. We are still driving. I reach over to unbuckle her, but Mom gets loud again and told him and me not to unbuckle her seat because we are leaving right when we get home. That didn't bother Dad at all, and that surprised me because they always fight when she doesn't do what he says. He's in a good mood, but he is impatient, and that still scares me sometimes. Mom was quiet the whole drive to McDonald's. Every time I looked at her, she looked angry and also sad. She has a cassette from Celine Dion that she always plays really loud when Dad isn't in the car, and she sings really loud, but she didn't play it this time. I got the 6-piece nugget Happy Meal, and my sister got the 4-piece. They gave me the girl toy again, even though my mom clearly said it's for a boy, and I gave it to my sister. When we got home, I squished a roach by the table and sat with my sister at the table, and we started eating. Mom went straight to her room, and her and Dad started yelling. We probably won't see either of them the rest of today. I heard the hallway bathroom fan running. I went and turned it off and sat back down to eat. That's it. Thank you so much for listening. Like I said, that's one of my favorite pieces I've written. It is emotionally dense, as you can tell. And thank you for being here. Thank you for watching. The link to this piece and every piece that I've written so far is down below to my Substack. I will see you in the next video.